Welcome to Take a Seat, the Ashfords trainee podcast. I'm your host, Bella. Join me as I speak to members from each department at Ashfords, exploring trainee life within various seats. Welcome to our fourth episode of our Take a Seat trainee podcast. Thank you all so much for being with me today. If we could just go ahead and sort of start with an introduction.
Great. My name's Clare Jackman. I'm a partner in the commercial and IP team, very much on the IP side, and I've been with Ashfords since 2019.
I'm Brian Farrell, so I'm a commercial lawyer with a real focus kind of on infrastructure projects, so particularly renewable energy, waste projects and water projects. I'm actually head of the team as well.
And I'm Suzie Miles, also a partner in our commercial and IP team. My specialism is a little bit more in the technology sector, which I can talk a bit about later. And I actually trained with the firm, so I've been here a long time now, 14 years, I think.
You can't be that old, Susie.
I know, I don't look it.
Amazing. Really looking forward to this episode. I know I say that in a lot of our departmental overviews, but I think our commercial department is absolutely one that trainees talk about a lot and are sort of really, interested in. So it'll be great to be able to dive in, sort of a bit more today. Suzie, why don't you start us off? Who are your clients and what do you do?
Yeah, great. So like I said earlier, I tend to work mainly in the technology sector. So our clients are obviously technology clients, and there's just a whole spectrum of what they do. Lots of clients that are offering software as a service, and that can be in all sort of different sectors. So trying to think of some cool clients and what they do now, and I'm put off by all of Claire's cool props from her clients.
They are impressive.
I know. So lots of technology suppliers, but we also act for lots of customers. So whether they're large retailers, we act for lots of franchise clients, and doing sort of technology transformation projects. So they might be implementing something that's new and critical for their business, and we'll support them on that journey and do all of the contracts with them. So it's quite nice to see both sides of it. And the same, we sort of work alongside our procurement team and work with lots of the councils, again, just looking at their kind of technology transformation projects. So that's our clients. It's lots of contract work, but we also do a lot of data protection, which, it doesn't sound as exciting as some of the IP stuff that Claire's going to talk about, but it is when you get stuck into it. Lots of data protection, and it's good fun.
Great. Brian?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So it's probably worth just saying the people you've got here are sort of specialists in certain areas, but we do, if you take a step back from that, we've got lots of other people in the team as well. So the team more broadly, it's commercial and IP team, right? So we do that, but it's not just for the tech sector or the energy sector. We have people who work more generally for other clients, so in manufacturing, logistics, lots of other sort of sectors, if I can say it in that way, working in that sort of commercial framework. So services, buying and selling goods and services for all of our customers, right? I mean, my own work, I said at the beginning, energy, waste, resources, so water. So the clients can really vary. They can be renewable energy developers that are building out solar or wind or battery projects. They can be waste companies, tend to do big infrastructure contracts, building out a big energy from waste plant. Some of these things, £500-600 million. Lots of commercial contracts that get wrapped up in those things in order to secure the revenue streams. And then, of course, I again just mentioned the water sector, and it's probably what it says on the tin. We act for a lot of water utilities, helping them in those commercial services needs. So again, just to repeat, that's the buying and selling goods and services for clients working in those areas. So I think that's pretty sexy, but I'm going to hand over to Claire
now. My clients have intellectual property. Either they own intellectual property or they have some issue that involves intellectual property. And that can be brands, it can be, there might be patent considerations, there might be design considerations, copyright, there might be an intersection or an overlap of various different types of rights. On the table are some props. Some represent matters that I've actually been involved in. Some intellectual property cases I've spoken about, and it gives you a flavour of the type of work we do. My particular specialism is trademarks and brands. It's something I've practiced for a good number of years, and almost every client we act for, whether they're an individual or a company, will own a brand or a trademark. And the work of the team is very much contentious and non-contentious work, because part of the, looking after intellectual property is finding out whether you're free to use and register it. And then there's the process of protection, and that can quite often be very international, which really adds a dose of spice to the team's work. I love the international dimension. And then, of course, enforcement. We have, there's some luxury goods represented on the table. Counterfeiting is an issue, so we do a lot of anti-counterfeiting work as well, and brand enforcement.
I feel like we can't move on without sort of just mentioning this a bit more. Is there anything on the table that you are sort of able to maybe speak about in a bit more detail?
Yes, I think probably the cycling shoes, actually.
Yeah.
We actually were in court for a week in November at the High Court, and the shoes were very much the centrepiece of the trial. It was a breach of contract, trademark infringement matter, and we had members from each side of the fence, the claimant and the defendant, talking about these particular shoes.
Sounds really interesting. Great. Thank you. So this episode is essentially about sort of obviously learning more about the wider department and your sort of different teams and trainee life, essentially. So what a trainee is going to be able to experience when they come and join you. So what is sort of your involvement with the trainee program, and how do you interact with the trainees as supervisors, partners within the team? Sort of what's that interaction like?
I'd say we're quite hands-on with trainees as a team. So in terms of going through the actual trainee program, obviously I think we all probably have been involved with the interview process and supporting with the different sort of assessment activities that you do, and that's always really interesting to see. And it's funny because then obviously they get their offer, but they don't start for a couple of years. So it's funny then seeing
I know
them.
you.
You were horrible to me in the interview. Yeah.
Yes, I've had somebody introduce themselves to me, and as if I'm supposed to know who they are. And it's a little bit embarrassing.
You have to think back, don't you? Like, what was the interview like?
Yeah.
So that's always quite a good part, I think.
Yeah, it is. And then, but then it's bringing them through, isn't it, as trainees as well? It's not just the interview bit; it's bringing them through as trainees. And we're all, Suzie, you said at the beginning, we're all really hands-on. I think that's a common thread though that I think really is across the firm as well. So it's not just our team, right? There is a real investment in the trainees, and we take real ownership and pride in the trainees and bringing them through and giving the best experience. So, I always say to trainees, take everything you can out of any training experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm really impressed by the selection process, and I love participating in that because you get a sense of, who the person you're dealing with, actually, a sense of who they are really, and whether they're going to fit in apart from anything else. And then, Brian was saying it's very hands-on experience. I think it's helped by the fact that we work in an open plan environment, so trainees are very much part of the mix of the team, and they're supported usually on both sides by lawyers who are senior.
Yeah, great. So looking at that kind of day-to-day interaction and maybe sort of giving trainees different kinds of tasks, what are they sort of regularly involved in on a day-to-day? I know that might vary sort of depending on your different teams, obviously, but if you could, I guess, maybe each say a little bit.
We've all spent some time trying to work out what would give a trainee a flavour of the work of the team. So we have a sort of trainee task list, and the trainee can work through that. The trainee will generally meet regularly with their supervisor just to make sure that each party's happy and the trainee feels like they're getting exposure to a varied amount of work and for different people, because I think that's important. And again, it's developing the soft skills, not just the academic stuff or the technical stuff. So, getting the opportunity to speak directly to clients or be involved in meetings, maybe attend court, those are all important as well.
Yeah, I'd say the same for us. And actually, I include the procurement guys in that as well, who aren't here today. There's a lot of research. So a lot of research involved in the matters that we're doing, whether on the procurement side or the pure commercial side. Lots of constant involvement in catching up with them to make sure they're getting the right sort of exposure to the right areas of law, because it is really broad. It's a really broad mix of stuff that we do. And so we try to make sure that they get a bit of everything, so they get the full experience, which actually I'd say also goes through, and sorry to Frank, who's missing his update catch up with me today, but it goes through the NQs as well, where we'll have a catch up, see what they've been working on, what areas they might need to have a little bit more exposure to. So that like I say, runs through from the doing a seat with us to perhaps becoming sort of NQs with us. And the task can be multifaceted. It can be helping us basically project manage large volumes of documents, carrying out contract reviews and for DD reports, so red flags. We do a lot of red flag work looking at key issues in contracts. Or it can be drafting, so drafting non-disclosure agreements, exclusivity agreements, and getting sort of stuck in on drafting tasks. But they tend to be pieces of work that are relating to a bigger project. So it's not just, we've been asked to do this one thing, go away and do that on your own, and you'll never be left to do something on your own anyway. But it tends to be a smaller chunk of a bigger project for us.
Yeah, and I quite like what Claire was saying about it's not all academic. We do obviously work with loads of contracts, which can sound quite boring, but actually when you start to get to know the client and what they do and trying to build that kind of commercial awareness, we spend a lot of time with trainees, trying to support them on that journey, which is the bit that maybe they haven't had experience with previously. And that's probably the more exciting bit, getting to know what the client does. Like for our team, it's understanding the technology and building that relationship, and then trying to apply that to whatever the sort of task at hand is with the contract. So lots of that.
And I love capitalising on trainees' academic skills, because in any given day I've got lots of things that are crossing my desk and just, hundreds of emails. And if there's something that comes in and I think, gosh, that's tricky, it can go straight to a trainee and they can be thinking about it, ready for a discussion with me later. That helps me get ahead of myself. And I find that really useful, and I think a trainee really enjoys it because they do have to use their sort of analytical skills and maybe even come up with something that I hadn't thought about myself.
Yeah, and how exciting to be a part of that process in the first instance, to dive into it first and then have that discussion.
That's right.
On the other side of the academic skills is obviously the soft skills. So what can trainees expect to gain from their seat in the commercial department? Yeah,
shall I jump in first? I mean, Claire, you touched on it a little bit there, client meetings, wherever we can, we'll get you in front of client meetings. That obviously, this day and age, a lot of that is on Teams. So, be it listening in, helping, taking notes, making sure we're picking up the points, and then we'll have a reconciliation after the call with the client. So I find that a really, really great experience. Obviously, where there are face-to-face meetings, they do still happen nowadays. We'll obviously bring the trainees along where we can to those as well. But that's a key soft skill one for us. I don't know. I mean, obviously you've got the courtroom side as well, which...
Yes, definitely. And we did have a trainee return to our team to help us out with the case. And of course, she's very much still in the mix of, she's still being kept up to date with what's happening because she's got a vested interest, which is good.
Business development. I think we try and get trainees to go along to events, as trainees really with us, and start to build up their confidence with networking. I mean, some people love it and other people find it a bit more challenging, but either way, it's good to start early.
But actually, that's a really good point as well, though, to develop that a little further, because the trainees, it's not just BD with clients coming to events with us, is it? But we've got a lot of networks, so junior networks, XYBC and a number of other junior networks. And our trainees are brilliant at getting involved. I think when they start, there's a bit of a reluctance. They think, oh, can I go to this event? But we really, really encourage that. If it's going and meeting another trainee from an accountancy firm, have a coffee, it's starting the process, because those skills that you learn there, it's also really nice to meet people and get to know people, but they're also skills that you learn that you'll use later in your career.
Yeah, building that confidence is difficult as well, isn't it, when you first start out? You mentioned the kind of client, getting trainees in front of the clients. What are some of those soft skills that I guess a trainee can initially display that makes you think, oh, they're doing a really great job here? Interacting with the client when you are at that trainee level, and you may just be there kind of taking notes or, not having too much conversation, but those things that make you think, done well done.
Yeah, and that's not to say that I'm kind of scoring people as they're going into these meetings, but you can see people developing generally through the seat, right? So if they come into a meeting, maybe at the start they're a bit reluctant, they hold back a little bit, but by the end of the seat, they'll be standing shoulder to shoulder with me, introducing themselves to the client, making eye contact, making notes, taking notes. And it's fair to say, raising questions as the meeting goes on as well. Mm-hmm. But that is something that develops over time, right? So it's not that you expect everyone to come in immediately and be throwing their 2 pence in, and actually that would be quite annoying. Yeah,
probably.
I strongly believe in getting in front of clients whenever possible, because I think that's how you build up the rapport, and it really helps the relationship. So I remember taking Elizabeth, a trainee who sat in our team, out to see a local client. It was a client that was actually new to me, and I didn't know them. And when I saw that they were just based locally, I just said, I'll come and see you. So Elizabeth came along as well. And quite often it's just a question of breaking the ice and just trying to find some common ground. And, it was actually a toy manufacturer. Mm-hmm. So it was a really sort of lively conversation, and talking about trends and the latest product that was going to be, the next big thing for Christmas. So that was really good.
Can you let me know for my 9-year-old? Any tips?
But I often say to trainees, it's about just making a connection. And also what we're trying to do all the time is inspire confidence in our clients, that we know what we're doing. And we don't need to teach them the letter of the law in doing so, but just inspire confidence that they know that their work's in safe hands.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Looking a bit more into kind of the broader department and I guess your sub-teams and the interaction between everybody, how does the team work and what is the environment like?
It's terrible.
Awful.
It's awful. This is so painful doing this with you guys.
No, I don't think anything could be further from the truth, actually. It's a lot of fun, and I certainly just look forward really to being in the office and alongside colleagues. And we've got a good culture now within the team of, we chat about things, we bounce ideas off each other. And I think that really helps, trainees. They've got the sort of safe space to contribute and to ask questions. And so that's a really good technique. But it's otherwise, it's a really fun place to work. And I think we've got a great team culture.
Yeah, and obviously I'm based in Bristol, but we still work a lot with the Exeter team. We'll sort of work alongside solicitors and associates in Exeter on some of our matters. And obviously we have our team chat, which is a department team chat, and our away days, and lots of opportunities to just get together as a whole team, which I think is great fun.
Yeah, on a social level as well as a work level.
Yeah,
it's good.
Always learning new things about colleagues, as we discovered recently at our away day.
Edit that out.
I'm not sure I should ask any more questions on that. And Suzie, you're actually our first guest who is based in the Bristol office. Can you tell us a bit more about what it's like, I guess, sort of working in the Bristol office in comparison to the Exeter, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it's any different. I mean, our Bristol office is still, a big office. I think there must be about 160 of us now. If that's wildly inaccurate, you might have to edit
We'll
that
fact
out.
check that.
And obviously we work across teams, just fairly fluidly, really.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you're sat in a different office and you're isolated in any way. Obviously, our BD activity and things tend to be focused a little bit more locally, although saying that, we obviously do a lot in Exeter and London as well. And then there's a lot of opportunities at the different levels, to be honest, to meet with your colleagues in all the other offices. So again, we mentioned we have department away days, we have division away days. I know that the trainees will get together across all the offices for training and socials as well. So yeah, I mean, Bristol is a lovely office to be part of. But I don't think it feels any different working outside of HQ.
I mean, we often have people from the Exeter team working in Bristol or in London, and vice versa. So people kind of popping up all over the place, like, where's Wally in the team sometimes?
Brian's always
I'm
sitting in
Wally.
my seat when I get in the
Yeah,
office.
you love that. Oh, the daggers.
I mean, we do hot desk, but
Well done.
Bristol seems like one of those offices where you're just always doing something. There's always fun things going on. I feel like that's a benefit of being in a larger city than Exeter in some ways.
yeah, and the Bristol office is obviously, like you say, it's right in the city centre.
Yeah.
So there's just so much going on around us, which people get involved with as well. Although, like Brian said, I guess, all of the offices have all of their kind of junior networking groups, which aren't necessarily just Ashfords groups. And I think they're really great to be part of.
I'm going to take the conversation a bit of a turn into yourselves and your various routes into law and kind of how you've come to all be partners within the firm. Brian, should I start with you?
I thought you were going to get into therapy or something. I'm going to take a different turn.
No, that's a different
How do you
podcast.
Yeah. Cool. So for me, I had another career first. Up in London, I was in banking, which I did for 6 or 7 years, I think. And then I had done a law degree, so it was always in the back of my mind that I might come back to law. And ultimately I did. So I came back in. I think all the skills I learned, so I definitely say this, it's not, you don't have to do another job, but from any experience, and I said it earlier about the training seats, you can take a positive and contribute positively to your future from your past, if you like. So even though I was in a very different sector and a very different job, the experiences I had and the things I learned in that were brilliant, were really, really useful. So yeah, it's slightly unconventional, didn't go all the way through, did my law degree, went and did my banking thing, but then came back to law, dragged me back.
How do you think your time doing banking and in that kind of finance side of things perhaps affected, your career now or benefited you in any way?
So how did that affect my thinking now? I don't know. I don't think that it gave me an experience anyone else can't learn from just going through a more normal route, if I'm honest. It gave me a bit of maturity when I came into it. I had worked in a job where I had to work really, really hard. So I was used to that culture, knew what working life was more about. So I don't think it necessarily gave me anything that I wouldn't have been able to get from other routes. Obviously, it has left me with, and I still have a real interest in global sort of finance and things like that, but that's more of a hobby, I guess, in a way. So yeah, I don't think it necessarily gave me anything that I wouldn't have got elsewhere.
And in terms of your sort of specific route, so you did a law degree and then you came back to law, and did you secure a training contract and then do the LPC, or how did you sort of go about it?
No, bit maverick. I just jumped in, did the LPC, and sort of winged it a little bit. So yeah, very, very unconventional. Don't do it, trainees. Don't anyone think it's not the way to do it. Be more organised than I was. I was being sent abroad for my job, and I just decided actually that I wanted to stay in the UK. And so, yeah, I just jumped in, did the LPC, and went from there.
And what did your training contract look like?
What did it look like? It was really varied. So pass fit was done in the banks. So I had time to count from the banks. So that was working in their legal team, which was a really great experience. And then I'm going to forget now what I did. Sorry to anyone who's involved with that. I did property litigation, real estate, a chap called Chris Gregson, who's awesome, and corporate. And actually, I knew that I was never going to be a litigator. But the prop lit seat was brilliant. What I learned in that seat, the methodical ways of working through problems was really, really interesting. So even though I came in, I suppose because I was having done another career, I knew I didn't want to do litigation. I wanted to be on the non-con side. But that was still a brilliant experience. And actually real estate, I knew I didn't want to do real estate. Sorry to Robin and Simon, but knew I didn't want to do it. But real estate is so integral in everything that companies do, that it was brilliant sort of learning how real estate works, because it just gives you that, I always call it the sniff test. It gives you that thing to be alive to, thing to be alert to when you're dealing on a project or a commercial matter. You think, hold on, there's a property related point here that I can drag the team into. So yeah, all really good experiences.
So you didn't do a pure sort of commercial seat in your training contract?
No, so I actually was a corporate lawyer at first. This is really showing me up, isn't it? It's hodgepodge. But I was multifaceted. There you go, thanks. I was a corporate lawyer, so I trained and qualified as a corporate lawyer, and I worked in there for a few years. And I then moved as a corporate lawyer into the projects team, working on corporate parts of infrastructure projects. So they're often, as part of an infrastructure project, you're often buying and selling a company or putting a sort of a joint venture together. So I was doing that for kind of, I think, 4 or 5 years, really. And then I sort of moved into more of that project's infrastructure work.
Brilliant. Great. Thank you.
Shall I go next? I had quite a vanilla route into law. So I just did a law degree and did my LPC, got my training contract, and I've been here ever since. So I feel like it's so boring.
Homegrown talent.
But yeah, I've experienced a lot of change in Ashfords in a good way. You know, I've undertaken secondments and I've spent time, you know, actually living and working in all 3 of our offices, actually, Exeter, Bristol and London. So I think that's given me a lot of different experience, even, you know, having had maybe a bit more of a vanilla route in a conventional. I don't think it is conventional anymore. I think there's so many different routes and people have so many different backgrounds. So yeah, mine's quite quick.
Still interesting, Suze.
And how have you sort of found it doing your training contract with Ashfords and now being a partner in the firm?
Yeah. I mean, I've obviously loved it, which is why I've stayed here. You just get to meet so many different people in your training contract. And I think that you don't realise the value of that actually until you're much later in your career, because it's the only time you can really go and get to know all the different teams that later in your career you really then need to refer work to and bring into your own projects and work alongside. So yeah, I loved the training contract part of my career journey. And then, yeah, I've obviously loved having the opportunity to sort of develop and build a technology practice, which is what I'm passionate about. So, yeah, it's been great fun for me. I've loved it.
What seats did you do, just out of curiosity?
So I started in planning, which probably wasn't my best seat. The planning team probably still remember me. And I remember on my last day of my seat, I was still reading a map upside down. I just could not get my head around. Yeah,
that's brilliant.
I was an awful trainee, but luckily they still liked me and it didn't put anyone off. And I then did personal injury. Again, just a fascinating seat. Loads of good experience, but it wasn't what I wanted to do.
And we don't do that currently, just to preface anyone interested.
This was quite a long time ago. And then I did employments, which was great because I got to really do a lot of contentious and non-contentious. And then I did corporate. So I actually also didn't do a commercial seat, interestingly.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Claire?
Well, at this stage of life, I've had a very long and varied career, actually. And I think I set out in law not necessarily intending to be a lawyer. It was either going to be law or business. And I think I wanted to avoid business because I felt that I would be dragged into the family business, which was retail, and where I'd had a lot of experience growing up, on the shop floor and dealing with customers, etc. So I did a law degree. Then I just followed everybody else and went to law school. I then did a training contract in London in a small high street practice where I actually got very good experiences running my own cases and managing clients. Although at the time I was very jealous of my friends who all seemed to be at the big fancy firms and perhaps going overseas to do part of their training contract. The second office of my firm was actually just 2 miles down the road, which was not very glamorous. But having qualified, I then went and did a round the world trip with a friend, and we got work in Australia while their paralegals went off to do their exams on their study leave. So we slipped in as paralegals into their roles. This was to earn some money to come back home with. So I got involved in an intellectual property litigation team, and there was a case involving, it was a patent infringement case involving some resin-filled torque nuts, and I just found it fascinating, but also really enjoyed working alongside the partner who sort of showed me his initial letter of advice to the client.
Can I just pause you there? This may be a really silly question, but what is a resin-filled torque nut?
Everyone's kept straight face.
It's used in mining, and if you go down and create a mine and you drill it all out, you have to support it with some sort of scaffolding type stuff, really, and to lock it into place. It's just like a nut and a bolt, and the bolt screws in and it pierces the resin, which is like an epoxy resin, so it cements it firm.
There you go. Now we know.
Yeah. But going back to Australia, and working alongside the partner, he gave me his letter of advice to the client, and it just set it out so clearly what a patent was, what it was designed to protect, what it couldn't protect. And I kind of just really got interested in intellectual property to the point that when I came back to the UK, I positively looked for jobs in the field and found work with a pharmaceutical company, a multinational company, and as a solicitor, but not in the legal team, in the trademarks team. And my boss said, right, you're now going to become a trademark attorney, which was very disappointing because I knew it would entail more exams. But it was just fabulous work. I was a very young lawyer, but had huge responsibility, looked after Southeast Asia in particular, where there were counterfeiting problems, parallel imports. We were regularly flying to Southeast Asia to instruct local lawyers, trying to encourage, the chief of police in Jakarta, Indonesia, to raid a particular premises where we knew there was some counterfeit manufacture going on.
Wow.
It was really fascinating, and I did qualify as a trademark attorney. So when I moved out of London, really with, at that time I was thinking, well, I was newly married, wanted to, have and raise a family. Didn't really envisage doing that in London, not being from London originally myself. So I moved down to Devon, and I found work with a patent attorney in Exeter for a year, which was great. I did the trademark work, worked alongside the patent attorney, and then set up my own practice from home. I practiced as a trademark attorney. My first client was Rhino Rugby, because they're based in the town, or they were based in the town where I live, and sort of knocked on their door and said, well, I think you might have some trademarks and designs. And and they were my first client, which was great. And then I quite quickly started working with the local law firms who didn't have the in-house expertise. So they would send me their work, and it was a nice job, and the practice grew. I worked part-time, I had young children at the time, but eventually I joined one of those law firms full-time and enjoyed many years with them, and then had the opportunity to move back to London. To almost have the career that I turned my back on when I was younger, when my career was not my priority.
Yep.
And I had a really great experience for 5.5 years establishing a trademark filing practice for one of the big city firms, and liaising with the global team, really, the global intellectual property team, because they were very important clients of mine. And, I was able to send them work, they sent me work, and, they're still very good friends now. And then after 5.5 years, my home was still in Devon, but I was never there. So I did get to the point where I thought, what am I doing? I just need to be living at home and working somewhere where I can commute. So I was very fortunate that Ashfords took me on. And
we were very fortunate.
Believed in me from the get-go, and it's been great. I've never looked back.
Amazing. So all sort of varied, I guess, pathways into how you've sort of found your work. It's brilliant. My probably favourite bit of these episodes is the highlights and the horrors, which I think you may be slightly familiar with. And Claire, you just touched on some really interesting things there, so I'm keen to know what your highlights are, and horrors as well. Who would like to go first with their highlight or horror? Your choice.
Shall I jump in quickly?
Mm-hmm.
I'll get it out of the way, like pulling off a plaster. I once told a massive client of the firm, an oil and gas client, that I loved her as I hung up the phone, which was I didn't intend to do that. So that wasn't a great moment in my life, because I had the senior partner next to me. I literally just joined the firm, I think, for a week. Just moved down from London, joined the firm. My mum had phoned me during lunch, and I just had a quick call and ended it with the customary, okay, love you, mum, bye. And so when this oil and gas company called for my senior partner, I took a message and told her I loved her as I hung up the phone. Which, I wasn't. He was quite impressed with client service, actually. So, yeah.
And how did you retract that?
No, I just styled it out.
Right?
Yeah.
And you were a trainee at the time?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, sorry, I wasn't. No, I was a solicitor. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Sorry.
Okay. That's still fine.
Yeah, still. Not ideal.
Solicitors make mistakes.
Yep.
For all our
I made it
trainees,
early.
if you've made a mistake
Got
like
it out the
that,
way. Yeah.
it continues on.
It was, Jerry Maguire moment.
Right, so we're calling that the horror then.
Let's go with horror.
Okay, yeah. And the highlight?
Highlight. I've had loads of highlights, I don't know. I've been involved in loads of brilliant transactions. As a firm, we're really lucky. We work on a range of different matters, but we do work on really high-profile work. I think maybe a highlight, although my wife might disagree, but a highlight was we worked on the acquisition of Bristol Water for Pennon, which is a great deal. I mean, the client's a fantastic team, really a very impressive team, sort of commercially, to work their way through that acquisition. So my wife wasn't that chuffed, and she'll hate this as well, but because I ended up working on a holiday from sort of 6 a.m. until 2 a.m. But it was a really exciting transaction to be involved with and to get it done and over the line for the client, and a really transformed sort of the client. So it was a really exciting time for that particular client. So great to be involved right up at the lead for that. We did all the aspects, so the DD, the corporate side. It was a very multifaceted team across the firm. So we had God knows how many people, over 100 people involved at any one time. But yeah, really exciting one to be involved with.
Wow, so you're just working from the pool on your holiday?
No, it was It was St David's in Wales, and it was February, so I wasn't in a pool.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that wouldn't be too good, would it?
Yeah.
Your highlight, your wife's horror.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, shall I? Well, Brian told me one of my horrors I wasn't allowed to share. Although I'm going to share it anyway. So when I was a trainee in the employment department, there was a case management direction hearing that was set. And as a trainee, all I had to do was go up there, sit in the tribunal while the judge effectively gave directions for when the hearing would be heard. So I traipsed up to London, just outside of London actually, and got into the hearing. It was, I better not say the client, but a franchise client, and he had bought his sons for the experience of sitting in the tribunal. And we got in there, and the tribunal judge decided that he would hear the case that day. And it was just me sat there. So, it was interesting. He adjourned, and I went out to kind of like a reception room. It sounds a little bit fancier than it is. It was just a few plastic chairs, really, in a waiting room. And I was trying to scribble down witness statements, and I was really fairly clueless, which, I mean, this wasn't planned. The judge was very sympathetic. It was a very simple case, so it wasn't, it wasn't a concern. He decided that he would adjourn again while I tried to settle the case. It was actually very straightforward. I won't go into details, but anyway, so I traipsed up with our client and his sons to a bank, and I tried to get someone to come and settle this with me, and it was... it was
still something you remember to this day.
I still remember, and I still talk about it with the partner that sent me up there. So very, very funny now when I look back on it, but you can imagine my face when the judge said that it was no longer just a directions tribunal. But just in case, we have to edit that one out. Most memorable, probably something similar to Brian's. One of the very first big projects that I worked on, we were advising a client who was part of a big consortium, and they were bidding for the rollout of smart meters, which actually happened probably long before people realised, because obviously it takes years to actually get the infrastructure in place. So it was a really big project, and it was just exciting. We were up in London, we were a big team, sat round negotiating all the big city firms, and it was just fantastic to be a part of. And I think when you're working on those big projects, you get a real sense of camaraderie, like you spend all of your time together, and you just build really close relationships with your colleagues and the clients, and even the other side. Actually, we were going out for dinner after a long day negotiating with all parties, and it was just fantastic to be part of.
Right, some high points and some horrors. I'll start with a horror first. And it also, it goes back to when I was a trainee at a firm, and a commercial client, I think they issued a Mayday. Basically, the Inland Revenue had turned up, and they were literally rifling through the offices and opening all the drawers, going through the filing cabinets and everything. So they rang up the partner they had a connection with and said, help. And I was sent down there to basically hold their hands and to just say, don't say anything, no comment. But it was distinctly uncomfortable, and I felt completely underprepared. All I could say was, don't say anything, no comment, don't answer that. And I eventually ended up going down to a police station while they were interviewed and then arrested. And then
sorry,
that went well.
It's like a movie.
Told they were going to be appearing in court, and that better prepare a bail application. And I was just, when I wasn't trying to hold the client's hand, I was on the phone to the partner, just trying to sort of express just how serious this was and that I perhaps needed a little bit of help and support. Things were going south and fast.
No comment will only get you so far. Right.
I don't know how that all panned out. Fortunately, I was able to bow out at one point, and it wasn't the type of work that the firm did. I mean, we can help clients with could help them with the commercial side of things, but not really investigations by the Inland Revenue.
No.
But I didn't like the comments that the Inland Revenue people were coming out with. They were opening drawers and finding banknotes, and they were just making sarcastic comments about how the wife's very thrifty then, is she? It was not nice at all. But and then some highlights.
Were they £50 notes though? Because everyone knows they're dodgy, right?
Possibly.
Yeah,
and then a highlight. I suppose going back to the cycling shoes actually, and it wasn't just the thrill of being involved in a case and a significant dispute that had got that far, but it was really the fact that we won the work thanks to a number of long-standing connections built up over a period of time. So it was quite serendipitous. But when a guy we use for our China work recommends me to an American lawyer who herself was representing the company that ended up being the defendant in the matter, the lawyer for China recommended me on the basis that I had a good head on my shoulders and that would be sensible. I was able to meet this American lawyer at a conference, an international conference, and we hit it off. I then was introduced to the client and again, built up a rapport, and we won the instruction from a firm that they felt wasn't doing a good enough job. I got some colleagues involved because although part of my work is contentious, I'm not really a litigator, but I've remained very close to the client and the case throughout, and was there in court to sort of be with the client and just also to see the culmination of what had been quite a detailed trial. But yeah, and the people I chose to work with, I've also known for a long, long time and had built up trust in their capabilities. And we used a barrister who, again, we've used time and again. So it really brought it home to me just how important those relationships are and the instilling of confidence in others. And, so it all culminated to great effect, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Claire said it was serendipitous, but, really it's based on your being exceptional at what you do and a bloody lovely person, so not just serendipitous.
Yeah. But, and then another highlight, I think, was when I represented McLaren and all their trademark portfolio worldwide whilst I was working in London. And the firm actually sponsored McLaren as well. And as sponsors, we were invited to a very exclusive dinner when I sat next to Lord Sebastian Coe. And after a few glasses of wine, I started to tell him about how I did a little bit of running in my spare time, which still makes me cringe to this day.
I'm sure he was very interested to hear about your 5Ks. Yeah.
I can't quite believe it.
Did you give him any tips?
I don't think I went that far.
No.
I think this has been the most riveting session of highlights and horrors I've had the pleasure of being involved with. Wow. Thank you all for those. That's great. So having gone through these highs and lows in your careers, what advice would you give to future trainees?
I'm going to jump in very quick, even though I'm very happy with where I am in life and everything, but don't tell clients you love them.
Yes, that's a good point to make.
Are they still a client though?
Yes, they are. They are. Like because of the loving thing. Yeah, no,
Maybe
you're right.
Say it more.
Yeah.
I did tell my team involved in the trial in November that I love them all, because that was the feeling, actually, after a week spending quite a lot of time in each other's company. And we also spent a lot of time with the client and, you know, really investing ourselves, you know, in their cause. And so it was just a fantastic experience. And I, you know, really genuinely felt, you know, really proud of us all involved.
I think in terms of jumping into the kind of what advice would I give trainees? I kind of said it earlier. Every seat you do, you can take a positive experience out of it, and you can take an experience that you will be able to use, you know, even if you don't go into that team, right, or into that department when you qualify, you will learn something that you can apply in a positive way going forward. So it sounds a bit cliche, but lean into it. Absolutely absorb everything you can, whether it's research, going out on the BD events, whatever it is. Always just try to get involved and be willing to sort of absorb as much information as you can, as much of that experience as you can. Ask questions. Really no stupid question other than when I ask them. But there really isn't. There's no stupid question. I love when I see trainees just really eager to learn and sort of get as much experience of as many different things as possible.
Yeah, that's a big one throughout Ashfords as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something that we really, really encourage is that openness and willing to just sort of muck in and get involved with those things. So that's a great point.
It sort of follows on, but I would say also just get involved with all of the firm-wide sort of initiatives and activities. There's loads of different really good groups and committees, whether it's, you know, getting involved with, we have Ashfords Connect in Bristol, which I think is XYBC in Exeter, or, you know, some of the wider groups, you know, looking at equality and diversity or ESG. It's just getting stuck in with the firm and not just the seat that you're in.
Yeah, it makes a big difference to be able to have those different connections when you're in your training contract as well with your fellow trainees, you know, having that cohort, being able to rely on them too, which a lot of those relationships do get built from those networking opportunities and being in those groups. So definitely.
Yeah, I'd say just get involved, and quite often, you know, just being involved in the fun stuff, not necessarily work related. That's a good way of getting recognised as well, because you know, you get to know a lot of people, and there's fantasy football leagues and things like that, aren't there?
There's everything under the sun.
Trainees. And I particularly appreciate it when a trainee, you know, I'll encourage them when I give them some work to remain invested, and especially if there's a deadline, because, you know, I kind of want them to take a little bit of responsibility for the deadline as well, to make sure that I'm on it and aware when the deadline is approaching, because, you know, the work, it's not often just discrete or, you know, specific task related. It does often build into a complete matter. So it is important to stay on top of those deadlines and to recognise that they're approaching, and can I help and follow up with the client? Do I need to get somebody's instructions? Can I chivvy you along?
I think that being proactive is what sets trainees apart, definitely. You know, you can do the tasks that you're given really well, but the trainee that does the task and then says, oh, would you like me to do the next step, or they've thought about the next step, or they've, like you said, sort of remained invested. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We're all obviously very proud to work for Ashfords and do really like the firm that we work for. Why should a trainee choose Ashfords? If you could just give a couple words in your opinion, what's the biggest thing that you think stands out the most?
Great clients, interesting work, and I think for a trainee, really good exposure to the work as well.
And I think just adding to that, you know, I've worked in London, I've worked in other places, but I think the culture we've got is brilliant. I mean, and you know, Louise and the board are really, really protective of that culture, and we don't just pay lip service to it. We really mean it. So we're doing that high level, really high profile, high quality work for our clients who are also brilliant. We have great partnerships with our clients. We don't just like to be the external advisor. We like to work more in partnership with our clients and see ourselves alongside them, and their problems are our problems kind of thing. But also, yeah, like I say, that all is swept up in that culture. So we've talked about it a little bit so far, in terms of openness, across the firm, right? I don't think there's anyone you couldn't just walk up to and have a chat to, ask a question of. It really is that open culture. We do like to have a laugh, but we're bloody good at our jobs as well.
Well said.
I'd probably just add opportunity, and I think that ties into culture. There's a lot of early opportunity to get in front of clients, to do all of the BD and the networking, and to build your own career. I don't think it's just a case of doing the work that's there and slotting into a team. I think everyone really wants to know what you're interested in, and if that's a sector that you have a particular passion around, we're always trying to support individuals to build their careers, and I think that creates a real opportunity, which I think is quite unique.
So many reasons to join Ashfords. If you are interested in applying, our applications close on the 31st of March. Thank you all very much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Bella.
Thank you.
Thank you.